do a notification for the breakdown. Is that correct?
Yes, they claim that there was no deviation, and if they are right, I have not concluded this yet. If they are right, then they do not have to submit a notification for the shutdown or the overpressure incident of the heater. Till this moment, I have not yet concluded whether or not there was a violation. I'm still investigating this.
No, that's not my question. Did you check the system, the class system, to see if there was a notification registered on that date? Let me rephrase that question that way. Was there if there's a notification, normally they're given a notification number, right?
Yes.
And do you check the class system to see on that date, on the 7th, or was it the 6th, that because Mr. Rosu said they called in within an hour. So if they called in, they would have been given a notification number. Did you check the system to see if there's such a notification was received?
No, I did not check the system.
So when you say there was no notification.
Yeah, but it was what happens usually is that my supervisor sent me an assignment to follow up with a notification number. And I did not receive any notification from my supervisor stating that there was a breakdown notification.
Okay, but you didn't personally check the class system?
No.
So, okay. All right. Thank you.
Senator, you have a question? Wait, let me unmute you. There you go.
On page 2 of 7, at the very last paragraph, just above 5, the paragraph above 5. By the way, sir, did you read this petition?
I read most of it.
Have you read most of it?
Yeah.
So you got past page 2 then?
Yes. Let me check.
So on page 2, where it's in attachment A, take a look at it.
On page 2.
Are you
Yeah.
saying number 8?
No, attachment A, alpha.
Oh, attachment A
Yeah.
to the petition?
It says, attachment that says force proposed provision, which the variance in AOC and March 10. You're saying that the district support granting the variance.
Senator, if I can respond to that, actually, the district and opposing counsel have submitted revised conditions which would supersede the ones that were initially proposed.
That is correct, and they have been marked as Exhibit A.
And in the revised one, at any time, any place, anywhere, does the district support granting a variance, and if so, under what circumstances?
We are on the good cause, still on the good cause page.
But it was still part of the petition we're discussing.
But
I just asked that they.
Senator, just a moment. Any proposed conditions in AOCs are for the merits. We're not even at the merits yet.
I asked that question at any time the district proposed granting the variance, yes or no? He's the inspector.
Proposed, well, no, that's a question for district council, but.
No, I'm asking him. He said read it. He's the inspector.
He doesn't make a decision as to whether to grant a variance.
Respectfully,
Would you please let him answer? Look, what I'm saying, I'm seeing here now a bunch of nothing that's going on. Back and forth, back and forth. I'm trying to get to the point.
What's the point?
The point question is, if the district supports granting a variance, let's move on. If they did at all.
The district came on, and in her opening, Ms. Roberts said she has issues and she was waiting to hear the testimony today with regard to whether there is good cause to even move on to determining whether the 6 findings can be made.
It is clear to me and to everyone else on the board, if you deny the interim variance, you go to the regular variance, big deal. Let's set a date for it.
Okay, that's 45 days from now. So that's what we're trying to determine, whether we have good cause.
If you deny this, we would save the whole half a day already.
Madam Chair, may I just clarify one item?
Yes.
Maybe I shouldn't, but I will. I just wanted to characterize district council's opening a little bit differently, that they actually said.
Actually, I already object to your characterization of.
Okay, We're gonna have Ms. Roberts just repeat the positioning of the
The
district.
position of the district at this time is non-opposition if the board proceeds to the merits of the interim variance. However, at this time, the district has reserved taking a position on good cause, having pending the evidence that the board receives.
That's my understanding. Thank you.
Yes, that was mine too.
Let's move forward to the merits. We're just wasting time.
Okay, we're not wasting time. This is actually part of the hearing, but thank you
Okay.
very much for your position. When we find good cause to hold a hearing in absence of notice to the public, that's not wasting anyone's time.
Well, if you do not find good cause, that's fine. You move to regular variance. Set a date for it. Same
Okay.
thing.
We haven't gone to deliberation, so we'll be there quite soon, hopefully. Okay. Did you have any questions for
That's
the
what
witness?
it's all about. They just waste time.
Did you have any other questions for the witness?
You with me?
Yes.
Oh, no.
Okay.
I don't want to extend this any more than it has to.
Okay. Then I'm going to mute you, and only because you don't have questions. And I'm going to ask
Thank
if
you,
any other member of the board has any other questions for Mr. I'm sorry, I was going to say Mr. Rosu, but no, Mr. Alatranzi. El Taramzi, I'm so sorry. Any other questions? No. Okay. And Ms. Roberts, you had no other witnesses. Is that correct on good cause?
Not on good cause, no.
Okay. Then I think we are at the point where we can have closing statements on good cause and move into deliberation. And I'll start with Mr. Weiss if you are ready.
Yeah, I'm just going to take a second. I guess I need to say something, but I do want to move forward because, as you indicated, we're going to lose one board member very quickly. As I stated in my opening, the facility has done a remarkable job in training, retraining, recertifying. The facility has done everything that it needs to do in terms of maintenance, preventative maintenance, in order to try to ensure that these kinds of events don't happen. And as has been shown, this is a really significant event for them. It does cut their revenue by 60%. And that revenue is down even further because we all probably understand that the price of oil has fallen through the floor as well. In terms of the harm related to the NOVs, I did want to touch on that just for a second. Under the district rules, my belief is that there are penalties of up to $10,000 per day, maybe higher. And that period of time is undetermined, but $10,000 a day at this point is not insignificant. Maybe a year ago, it could have been different. But we all know what's going on out there in the world. We all know where the economy is. We all know what's going on in Congress. And there are, $10,000 a day over an extended period of time is significant at this point. I do think that we've presented persuasive evidence that the circumstances leading to the violation could not reasonably have been avoided by the petitioner or anticipated. I think the word or would have been a different word, perhaps nor, if it was to be read as an and, but I won't go too deep into that because I know the board chair has her view set on that pretty strongly. But I think that from the evidence, from the sworn testimony that you heard from petitioner's witness, that they do really everything in their power, because this is such an important piece of equipment, to avoid this sort of situation, and that they really reasonably couldn't have been anticipated. I mean, I think of consequential events out there. In hindsight, yeah, everything can be avoided, I guess. But we're dealing with an uncertain world, and we're dealing with a very complex piece of equipment as a refinery. And we don't think, frankly, that the board should have a particularly difficult time finding good cause to move forward. I don't know. I don't think the board has any real questions on the other three elements to find good cause. That there is a violation, that is clear. We've been talking long and hard about whether it could have been avoided or anticipated. We exercise due diligence in filing the petition regardless of the 218 issue, one way or the other. And I've just talked a little bit more about the harm that is unreasonable to make these folks suffer at this point. I'll just wrap it up at that because I do want to get forward and let the board do their deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Roberts, your closing on good cause.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Briefly, we agree with counsel for petitioner that several of these findings are not genuinely at issue, specifically finding number 1, that the petitioner is in violation, that is not disputed. And we also do not dispute diligence. The petitioner did file within the next business day, and we think that finding, that timing is sufficient. The other two, I would like to address in a little bit more detail, starting with number 2. That was what I expressed to the board concern with, and the lack of evidence that the district had prior to this hearing. Ultimately, the evidence that the board has heard today boils down to, we are not yet sure. The facility themselves, their own witness, has testified that they cannot rule out things like operator error, things that normally a large, complicated facility in the middle of a large urban area that has the potential for overpressurization events that are euphemistically described, that's an explosion. We expect you to avoid operator error. And that is something that should be avoided. And ultimately, the problem that the district is finding itself in is that it's a burden of proof question. Is there sufficient evidence to rule that cause out? And all we've heard from both the district side and from the petitioner's own witness is that we don't know yet. And as the district witness has testified, we should have an investigation report by early April, and that should shine light as to what is the ultimate cause. The district has requested that investigation report be submitted to the district, and I expect that would be quite relevant and expected to show up to the hearing board when a regular variance is scheduled. Based on that, I think it's hard and difficult to conclude that the petitioner here has met their burden of proof, which the hearing board's own guidelines emphasize is meant to be a strict requirement that is more than merely circumstances beyond reasonable control in the normal findings. And with respect to the fourth finding, specifically finding 4B, an unreasonable or unavoidable adverse impact to the petitioner, I think the evidence is clear that we are not dealing with 4A, and there is no increase of admissions that will occur as a result of this. To the extent that the petitioner may be exposed to a notice of violation, which again is not certain until the district actually issues such a notice of violation, there are civil penalties that are associated, although I would point the hearing board to section 42403B of the Health and Safety Code of the district is required to take into account things like financial burden to the petitioner should they be issued a notice of violation before settling for any amount of civil penalties. But ultimately, what I would like to focus on is whether or not this is an unreasonable adverse impact in light of these circumstances. These circumstances are, the petitioner cannot say with any certainty that this was not avoidable. They cannot say with any certainty that this was not operator error. And because they cannot say that as an interim variance to proceed without notice, this is a matter of 45 days or so until we can schedule a regular variance, I would suggest that civil penalties that may be associated with a notice of violation that might be issued do not amount to an unreasonable adverse impact given the state of information at this time. And because those two findings are still at issue and have not been successfully resolved, the district at this time is opposed to a finding of good cause. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Roberts. Board members, let's begin deliberation on this. This is a difficult one, I think, because we are used to, as was pointed out in the petition, we are used to hearing interim or emergency variances where it's just a SEMS and the SEMS needs to be taken, disconnected because of regular maintenance or something of that nature, which I think is a little bit different here. So I think we do have to dig a little bit deeper. I think this is a little more complicated. And I want to just point out a couple of things from our guidance to go by here. First of all, it is correct that when we talk about the 4 findings we need to make, before that, it is stated that a petitioner must present persuasive evidence of or that, and then goes on to the 4 findings. So as we always know, it is the petitioner's burden to present persuasive evidence. So what we have, at least on ex partes, I know even in the recent past, it's been presented to me, well, we just don't have the findings yet. We haven't been able to do a root cause analysis. And the answer inevitably will be, well, it's the burden of petitioner. So that burden doesn't fall on against public notice or against the right of the public to be informed as to a hearing. And so if we don't feel we have persuasive evidence, we can't make a particular finding. I wanted to try again also just to try to rephrase, if I could, my position on the word or in the second finding. It's not that I'm saying or means and. It's just a way of speaking. I might say to somebody, I could have gotten my point across as to my reading of that second finding better if I had spoken more clearly, or if I had known that this was going to come up and I had gotten my thoughts together in advance. Obviously, I mean both of those things happening. And if either of those things had occurred, then I would have gotten my point across. Just as if either of those things in finding number 2 had occurred, there would have been no need for not having adequate public notice, because either it would have been avoided in the first place or anticipated with sufficient time for public notice. So I just wanted to point out a little bit, with a little bit more clarity, why it is that I'm not arbitrarily saying or is and it just is inarticulately stated. And with that, I'd love to hear from my fellow board members. Let's just take diligence off the table. I don't know, unless anybody has an opposing feeling. I believe that this occurred on the 6th. It was filed on the 10th. As Ms. Roberts pointed out, that was the first day apparently that they could have even filed. It was right after the 96 hours were up. So that was diligent. And clearly by disconnecting that SEMS, even though the heater is down, at least it's the interpretation of the district that that is a violation of several permit conditions and etc. And I also want to point out that in that 4th finding of an unreasonable and unavoidable adverse impact to petitioner, that unavoidable is back again. So it goes back to whether or not this reasonably could have been avoided. And I think there's a lot of evidence that was presented today that this heater has been maintained. There was a turnaround as recent as 6 months ago, and no major issues apparently were reported, and there were upgrades made at that time. There are daily inspections. So they're doing their part as far as that's concerned. We've also heard that there's a lot of training that's done of various personnel, and that they have to go through 4 job stations in the field before they can progress even inside. And then there's significant training to be a console operator and to be operating certainly independently before that can occur. But I do think we are still missing some very crucial evidence, which is what occurred here. And whether or not it could reasonably have been avoided by a petitioner, because we still don't know what it is that occurred. And so do we have the persuasive evidence that we need in order to make that finding. And I'm not sure where to come down. And I don't know, board members, whether anyone else wishes to be heard now, and we can, yes, Mr. Balagopalan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think I agree that I think we don't have persuasive evidence, and we probably won't know that until the root cause analysis is done, and that is and that information is provided to see if they whether the circumstances that led to the violation. I'll put in quotes a violation because I'll get to that later, because as you know from my past history on this type of thing, I don't see it as a violation, but I still think that we should have a duly noticed hearing before making the determination, and because we really don't know what exactly happened that led to the incident. So on that basis, I would say, and then the adverse impact, as the judge said, they might get a notice of violation, and we don't know if they will or not, which would create an impact. And the whole reason they have applied for this variance is to avoid getting the notice of violation. So that is, they've already been operating 3 weeks. I mean, with a complete shutdown. So they've shut down the heater. We know they have to take the stack down. Naturally, the SEMS is offline. So there's no question that all of those have to be down, and they have to be repaired before they can bring it back online. And we saw evidence or data provided that they put double blinds, and and I'm sure they've tagged out procedures to make sure the heat is not fired until it's safe to do so. I don't think that's a concern. And I just wonder what stuck up with on page 2 of the petition, and it's on the second paragraph, the second paragraph in item 4. The investigation confirmed that it's impossible, and the word they use, nonsensical, to operate the SEMS and safely repair the heater. And I couldn't agree more in that to that statement. However, I do believe, I mean, if we should have a notice hearing, give the public the opportunity to provide comments, and then we'll have more data, more evidence on the root cause analysis before making the determination to proceed. So on that basis, I don't think I can support a good cause finding. You're muted, Julie.
Yes, thank you. And by the way, I want to point out that we got a date of April, what was the date by which the root cause analysis was due? Oh, April 6th. That's coming up quite soon. If the root cause analysis shows or actually it constitutes persuasive evidence, this could be brought again in terms of an emergency or an interim again to try and bridge it. I just want to get that out there. It doesn't have to be that they have to wait for a noticed hearing if they can then present again that evidence, and that's coming up sooner than mid-May.
I just want to clarify that sometimes the inspector will put normally 2 weeks to get that report, or 3 weeks. The facility could ask for an extension, so that potentially could be, because they may need more time to do a proper root cause analysis.
Understood. I want to go to Dr. Bernstein. If Dr. Bernstein, if you have anything to add, because I also wanted to find out your timing and whether or not, but before you would have to jump off at 3 o'clock, I'd like to at least hear if you had any thoughts that you wanted to add. And then if you had to jump off I wouldn't want you to jump off the vote. But
and I don't want to either, but I think it's important for me to attend to that call, and they're not sure whether it's going to take 30 minutes or an hour. Putting 5 mayors on the phone at the same time, God only knows how long the meeting will be, but that the estimate is somewhere like an hour is the estimate, but I would think at the outside. Well, we've heard a lot of testimony and spoken a lot about the point number 2 with regards to justifying a good cause with regards to the circumstances. And I've read that point over and over again to try to see if I can make some determination regarding that. my gut tells me that no matter what I'm not sure that they could have reasonably avoided whatever happened, whether it was an error by the operator or whether it was a system failure, an explosion, whatever they find out as the root cause. I'm not quite sure in my mind whether that could have reasonably been avoided. I mean, are we going to determine whether or not that your operator wasn't educated? I mean, I don't see that as our purview and how we get into that. And so I'm frustrated that we don't know what the root cause is, but I don't see that as being as much of a hurdle as it seems to be during this hearing. Something happened, something that was emergent, and obviously it couldn't have been reasonably avoided because it happened. And so from my perspective, I'm not sure if that's such a hurdle for me regarding the variance. I do understand what we've been talking about though, and that the root cause should be determined within 2 weeks. And maybe ultimately it doesn't make any difference one way or another with regards to the long term and whether a variance can be gotten at another point in time. But in my mind, I'm trying to wrestle with this. And so I guess I'm not sure whether I feel as adamant about this as my other colleagues do, in that it seems to me that we've established that something happened that was an accident, for lack of a better adjective. And it seems to me that it could not have easily been avoided, otherwise it would have. So I'm leaning towards, at least on that point, not holding up granting, not feeling that good cause was demonstrated. Obviously, the other point to consider is that there are no admissions at this point, and there's not going to be an increase in admissions because the whole system is shut down. So there's a couple of points with regards to establishing good cause that still need to be, deliberated upon. But I'm not sure that I'm stuck on the second point as much as has been contributed to during the time in this particular hearing.
Thank you.
I don't know if that clears anything up, but.
Well, no,
Making
of
my
course,
point.
I wanted to hear your, especially before we lose you. Ms. Verdugo-Peralta, are you indicating you wanted to be heard? Go ahead. Oh, sorry, I have unmuted you. Oh, wait, I have not. I'm having a hard time unmuting. Can you unmute yourself? Wait, there you
I
go.
just did. Okay, ready?
Yes.
Okay. Having observed this through the generating stations, okay, and it's similar in the sense of there's normally a protocol that for every single type of failure, there are steps that need to be followed. I think that we have not been able to hear the right person. The person who should have been here for us to ask questions was the person who was the operator. Why that person isn't available even as a witness, I don't know. But that person would have been able to tell us specifically what had happened. Normally, when an operator, they find that even if there's a question of a possibility of it being human error, they remove that person from that position until the investigation is over with. The fact that we don't have that information leads me, it's too ambiguous for me in any case to see that there is good cause, because I should have been able to get these questions answered by that person. And even if they're in the middle of their investigation, that's probably why that person isn't here, to give us that information. But I just can't go along with the only thing that's pulling me towards granting it is the fact that there are no emissions. And that to me is huge. However, because of the fact that there are so many questions, and this being unavoidable or not, do we know whether that person had enough training? Was it just an error on their part, or was it just failure of the equipment? We don't really know. And so for those reasons, I cannot find good cause.
Thank you. And I wanted to remind us that, as I had read earlier in the guidelines, because when you think about, then we have to move on to beyond reasonable control, which is one of the 6 findings, should we get past good cause, but could not reasonably have been avoided is actually a stronger, is meant to be a stronger standard. It's intended to be stricter, this is how we restate it, than the beyond reasonable control of the petitioner. So I wanna just remind us of that. Senator, you have not been heard yet. Did you wish to be heard? Let me
I cannot find good cause.
Excuse me, Senator, Madam Chair, I'm gonna have to get off, and I'm getting a text from the supervisor.
Okay, I'm sorry to lose you as a vote. If we are tied, we will come back. I'll alert you and let you know.
I'll leave everything on and keep myself muted, and hopefully maybe this will be a really quick call, and we'll proceed from there if you need me. I'll try to be available. I apologize, everyone.
Okay.
Obviously unusual circumstances right now.
Well, I need my blood pressure taken. You know,
Yeah, I'm sorry, we are still a quorum, so,
you have a quorum.
okay. Senator, go on.
I cannot find good cause. Even though they have a good training program, it goes on for a long period of time. Therefore, the operators know or should know what the conditions are as relates to operating this system. Somewhere along the line, there was a failure. And it could be a really explosive to the extent where you damage a lot of people's lives, their health and safety. And the district is right by probing and asking all these questions. We don't want this to happen again. It could be catastrophic next time, where we do lose lives. We've had some explosion at some of these facilities. So it's incumbent upon the petitioner to make sure that at all times, the operators are hands-on on top of the job, and there's a problem, document it right away. They may have done that, but they're not going to tell you what the problems are. It's just not likely to do that if they find any problem. If they find them after the investigation, or they going to give the report in total and detail, honestly, to the district. And we don't know that. So I think that when we come back for the regular variance, a lot of questions that have been raised, they should be prepared to answer those questions. Next time, bring the engineer, bring the people who can answer the question. This gentleman did a good job, we like him. But the fact of the matter is that 50% of the questions that was posed to him, he said, I can't give you the answer. Don't bring him. Or bring someone else to answer the questions that he cannot answer. I cannot find good cause.
Thank you, Senator. Okay, is there any other thoughts before I make a motion? And I should ask Dr. Bernstein, are you on the other call, or are you still present for a vote and a motion? I'm taking it he's on the other call. Okay. Okay, I'm not seeing, oh, wait, somebody has, no. The witness has his hand raised, but I don't think he means to. Okay, so if there are no other thoughts by any of the board members, I'm going to make a motion. In the matter of Tesoro Refining and Marketing Company, LLC, case number 4982-124, I move that we dismiss the petition for an interim variance for failure to find good cause to proceed to a hearing on the merits in absence of notice to the public, and in particular, based on the discussion of the board and the majority feeling that there was not enough persuasive evidence presented as to the cause to show that it could not reasonably have been avoided. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
A second.
Okay, so I think Senator, you seconded first. Okay, I'm going to unmute all of you. If there is any discussion, you are all unmuted. Any discussion on that motion?
I just want to say they knew, should have known. In as much as they have daily inspections every day, sometimes hour by hour. They know something they're not sharing with you, in my view. I vote aye for the motion.
Okay, and there's no evidence of that on the record. And we hopefully will find out sooner rather than later what the root cause actually was. Okay, so I'll talk about next steps once we call for a vote. Okay, so and seconded by the senator, Mr. Balagopalan, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Verdugo Peralta, how do you vote?
Aye.
Senator, you vote yes?
Yeah.
I vote yes. Motion passes 4-0 with unfortunately Dr. Bernstein having to step out of the hearing before the vote. But I want to just briefly again reiterate that number one, this was dismissed but without prejudice, which means this petition will still stand for regular variance, which you're going to set in a moment. I'm going to bring on the clerk in a moment so that we can come up with the date for that. But in addition, as I mentioned, if the root cause does reveal itself, or if it's found or much earlier than mid-May, which is when I understand we'd be able to have a noticed hearing, we can rehear this. We can rehear this as an interim under new evidence, or we could hear it as an emergency if it were within 30 days as an ex parte if necessary. However, I would rather not do that actually now that we've had a full board hearing, and I would rather rehear it for the full board as an interim. Okay, and now we should set the regular variance hearing. Madam Clerk, are you there?
I am.
And what was the dates did you say there were preliminary dates discussed?
I think they discussed May 13th.
Then on Friday?
No, it wouldn't be. May 13th is a Wednesday.
I believe we offered May 12th, 13th, and 14th. Any of those days? I think.
Yeah, those days are open.
If we could do it on either the 12th or the 14th, that would be better for the district council. But if it has to be the 13th and that's the only day, we can make that work.
No, any day that week will work.
Okay, so then May 12th, let's go ahead with that, since that's the soonest we could get on calendar then.
May 12th is a Tuesday?
I'm sorry?
Is that 12th, Tuesday, May 12th?
Yes, that is Tuesday, May 12th.
You want to meet on a Tuesday, you usually try to put them on Wednesday, Thursday.
Given that we did not grant the interim at this point, I would assume that they would like to proceed on the earliest possible date that can be noticed. Is that correct, Mr. Weiss? Yes, he is indicating yes. So yes, we would like to meet on Tuesday since it's a regular hearing board day. Okay, so we will set this and notice will be given to the public. Suppose, well, we'll talk about how that notice is given in terms of whether we have no idea if we'll still be Zooming or if we'll be meeting in person at that point. But regardless, we will hold the hearing on that day. Any other business board members before we adjourn? Okay, thank you. Thank you all for being the pioneers in our Zoom hearings for the hearing board and really doing an excellent job. I appreciate everyone's effort and we got through it. Thank you all and good luck on the root cause analysis and let's see if we come in before the 12th, but we'll definitely be back on the 12th of May. We are adjourned. Thank you all. And thank you, Thank you, Madam Clerk, and thank you everyone over there for
Welcome.
all of your help.
Julie, quick, before you leave, Julie,
Yes,
is time cut due? I know there was an email, it's Tuesday now, they want it earlier.
I'm sorry.
Rosalinda, do you know if the time cut is due this week?
Time cards? Oh, I don't know.
Or is it next week?
We still have a hearing on Thursday, right?
We do. We have another
Yeah.
interim on
Yes.
Thursday.
Let's see, I got the sheet here, so,
Madam Chair, just to be certain, we are adjourned, correct?
We are. Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
yes, time cards are due this week.
I saw an email saying they wanted earlier, like Tuesday, so usually Thursday.
That would be
you
today.
see-
Is that right?
Yeah, that was today, so
Okay, we'll do that.
Are you wanting them earlier?
I thought I saw an email regarding that, from finance. I don't know if
Are they due earlier, Faye?
Cynthia. Cynthia,
Yes.
you have a temperature, I know you're coughing like me.
I have a really bad cough, and it was a good thing that we did this remotely, because I certainly would not have wanted to get everybody else this nasty little cough. And
Take your temperature?
I have no
Mohan,
fever, no
We're
fever
just
at all.
checking right now.
But I'm
Thank
still gonna go have the COVID-19 test on April the 10th, I think. I'm gonna have it on one of those drive-bys in Lake Elsinore. So,
You just be careful that you're not testing yourself and exposing yourself.
well, yeah, and supposedly in the drive-by, it's real quick and fast, and nobody, you don't touch anything. They just swab your nasal cavity, and that's that.
I never leave home without it. I never leave home without it.
You have a great one there. That's a great
Yeah,
one.
I don't have one at all. So I haven't gone anywhere. And yesterday was my birthday and we couldn't do anything. I couldn't see my grandkids.
Oh, happy
couldn't-
birthday.
Thank you. I just, I miss them more than anything else.
My dad's 80th is coming up and I was supposed to go to New
Oh.
Jersey to visit him.
Well, you're okay, you're safe, you're young. A guy like me, they put me in the hospital, they kill old people and give the protection.
You and Cynthia were the first two I thought of that we had to make sure no matter what, you weren't coming in. Mohan was saying, I'll come.
not that I'm not in the age bracket, I am, but
I sure
I was
appreciate
gonna
the
come.
district.
I'm not in the age bracket, but
You have to be worried also, by the time you kill all the older people, then they come down here.
Yeah,
I'll be the tribal elder.
yeah. The district did a fabulous job of getting this done and us being able to do this remotely. This was pretty fabulous.
Yeah, I'm getting you all online. It really, I mean, with the exception of course, sometimes there's documents and evidence that nobody anticipates in advance. And they come up and they're gonna slow us down when we're doing this remotely, but otherwise,
Yeah.
pretty well.
I bought this computer about 15 years ago, there's a camera on it. So I always keep it covered in case somebody sees me.
Well,
I just
Paul,
paused it.
thank you. Paul,
I
thank
have
you.
with a
so much,
camera, that's
Paul.
really nice.
Yes, Paul's always fabulous.
yeah.
Okay, did you?
Let me call Mark. Okay, before we disconnect, you want me to? let me
Yeah.
call Mark?
Thank Mark. Mark is great.
Oh, he's been wonderful and fun to work with.
Hmm.
We're checking with him right now as far as, if we should just turn this off immediately or,
Well, did we get an answer on when our timesheets are due? We have to do them today? I mean, I guess why not?
Faye is still checking.
Why not? Because
Check with
we're not
Jada.
driving in anywhere anytime
Yeah,
soon.
I know. We have a case on Thursday, right? I mean, is it 2 or 1? I can't.
Caltech.
Caltech.
Caltech, yeah.
Okay,
check, I mean, your expense claims are due on Friday, so they're not due today.
Friday. Oh, okay. All right. Sorry.
Yeah, that's for a whole different set of accounting,
Oh, okay. All right.
okay? Yeah, they are cutting checks once a week, so as long as we get it by Friday, you'll have, your deposit next week.
And by the way, Faye was working while everyone else was off yesterday and
Yes.
probably over the weekend. And
And
thank you,
Sunday.
Faye. Thank you.
Yes. Thanks for appreciate you calling and checking on it, all of us. You know.
Right.
You're welcome. You were the only one, I couldn't get a hold of you, Cynthia. Your mailbox was full.
My mail, oh, you mean on my phone?
Uh-huh.
Okay, which number? Was it the 0780?
It's the one that you told me it's best to reach you on.
Yeah, that's the cell phone.
Yeah, and it said it was
Really?
full.
It's full.
Yeah,
All right, I will make sure I clear that out.
okay,
Thank you, though. Thank you for everything.
you're welcome.
Okay, so
Thanks,
Okay.
Paul.
you're welcome.
Hi,
You want
Paul.
to chat some more as a group? Otherwise, we'll
I think
end it.
I think everything answered.
I know you guys just want to be the Brady Bunch.
It's so much fun. I love this. It's the way. You guys
Yes.
want to meet my little friends?
Oh yeah. Who's?
These are all my my Harry Potter guys.
Dr. Bernstein's out.
Oh.
Next time I have time to put my makeup
Just
on.
for fun.
All right.
All right.
Okay,
You
so
can end it over
we're
there.
we're going to
Talk to
officially
you on
end it, okay?
Thursday.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you. See you all on Thursday.
You want me to stop the
Okay,
recording?
we good? Okay, Madam Chair, we're going to end it, okay?
Thanks, Paul.
All right.